Also in the night slate, ranked matchup on the ACC network. Pitt will travel to Dallas in an old school ACC slugfest. I always say that tongue in cheek. It's just funny as a kid from Dallas to think about SMU being in the ACC is just still uncomfortable for me. And I'll probably make fun of it for like 2 more years and then I'll get over it. I still think it's a great addition and SMU has been amazing. It just, as a kid from Dallas, I never thought about us, wearing our suits and boots. I never thought about us fitting in the ACC, but I digress. SMU, they're in position to maybe get to the ACC title game right now, undefeated in the conference in their first year. But Pitt, what a bounce back season from Pat Narduzzi. Such a disappointing 2023 campaign. Fast forward to this year, they're 7-0 for the first time since 1982. That was when Dan Marino was at the helm. They were number 1 in the AP poll that year. But here's the bad news. Pitt did lose that 8th game that year to an unranked Notre Dame team. So they're looking to start 8-0 for the first time since winning their first 10 back in 81. So it's been a while since Pitt's been in thin air like this, but looks to be pretty real. It really does. Let's start with question number 1. And this has been a theme all week, right? Quarterback injuries, whether it's Penn State, maybe quarterback injuries or quarterback indecision. Like A&M's got indecision. And then you got this situation with Pitt, Eli Holstein. Now, Pat Narduzzi was asked about it, about the health of Holstein, who, by the way, he went out of the game on his own accord, hit his head, didn't complete the game, pulled himself out, walked to the middle tent, walked to the locker room. But he's been really good for him all year. I mean, he's thrown for over 1,800 yards, got 17 touchdowns. And if you look at just how he's performed in the non-conference, maybe coming back to earth just a hair. He was 12-2 touchdown interception ratio in the non-conference. Not quite as efficient right now. He's 5-3 on TD to INT and just 207 yards a game. But there have been times where he's thrown into some traffic. And that's something that's worth monitoring in this situation. If Eli Holstein can go. If he can't go, it sounds like Nate Yarnell will get a lot of the first team reps this week, and they'll assess as they get a little bit closer. One thing worth noting, Holstein has struggled at times under pressure this year. But Pitt is going to give up a lot of pressure. That's just kind of where they're at. And then SMU on the other side, they have one of the highest pressure rates in the country. So if SMU can pressure the quarterback and stop the run, that could be a huge problem for Pitt's offense as far as consistently moving the chains. Question 2, can Kevin Jennings take advantage of a secondary coming off a historically dominant performance? Now, here's one area where Kevin Jennings is very, very different from Kyle McCord. Kyle McCord's going to live in the pocket. Kevin Jennings can break you down with his legs. And SMU's offense, they got tons of RPOs. This is something, by the way, that Pat Narduzzi's prepared against. Rhett Lashley has faced Pat Narduzzi in the past. He was at one point the offensive coordinator at Miami. So this is going to require great discipline at the second level for Pitt because of all the different things that Rhett Lashley can do to cause confusion defensively. And when he doesn't cause confusion, he can just hand it to Brashard Smith, who's 3rd in the ACC with 750 rushing yards and 2nd in the conference with 9 rushing touchdowns. The good news is Pitt's great against the defense. They're always great against the defense. All Pat Narduzzi coach defenses are going to be great against the run. 94 rushing yards a game given up this year. That's the 9th fewest in the FBS. And if you look at how Kevin Jennings made mistakes last week, and we'll talk about the turnovers here in a second, Kevin Jennings has feasted on teams that ramp up the pressure. The more you blitz, the more he breaks you down. Well, Manny Diaz last week, who was the head coach at Duke and the team that led to those 6 SMU turnovers, he kind of forced SMU to be patient. He kind of stayed back. He didn't overload the pressure. He didn't ramp it up as much. And you could tell that SMU, without their top target, RJ Maryland, kind of struggled to manufacture the big plays. They got frustrated and they made big mistakes. This Pitt defense, if you don't know about their linebackers, watch this game. Kyle Lewis, Rasheem Biles, these guys are awesome, man. And they're going to be put on a pedestal this week trying to slow down this RPO-based offensive attack. Question number 3, do you know anything about SMU's defense? No. SMU's defense is actually a lot like Pitt's. They're kind of similar. They're relatively simple. They don't do a ton of intriguing things. They kind of know what you're going to get. And they're great against the run. They're 5th right now in rush defense. and they're a group that can really penetrate and create problems. So they're a simple defense that operates and executes at a pretty high level. And I think Pat Narduzzi, if you were to ask him, hey, what do you think of this SMU defense? I think he'd probably tell you that he likes them because they remind me a lot of a Pat Narduzzi coach team that we've seen in the past. And then question number 4, does this game simply come down to turnovers? Two teams that had very interesting outcomes last week as it relates to turnovers. SMU was -6 in the turnover margin last week and still won the game. I read somewhere that this was only the second team to ever win with a -6 turnover margin, which I'm not sure how you do. Well, I know how you do it. You make sure they miss a 42-yard field goal at the buzzer. You block a 30-yard field goal. Like, I know how they did it, but it's still pretty remarkable that they sat there -6 and won the football game. Meanwhile, on the other side, Pitt forced 5 interceptions and 3 pick sixes. All of those pick sixes came in the first half. It was the first time that's happened in a college football game since FIU did it in 2005. Trend in the game, Pitt has covered 6 straight cover losses as a road underdog. That's tied for the longest active streak in the FBS, and SMU is 20-9 as a home favorite since 2019. I'll take SMU. I think last week was the anomaly performance. They'll have a big bounce back and they'll win this game comfortably.